It's a new day right here on Jasiri, and we're ready to give you real talk and, of course, definitely good vibes. Now, getting straight into it, because we have a really, really deep conversation we want to get into later. Have you ever been stuck in traffic, ladies, and said to yourself, I really need to come down and show these people how to do things?
Yes.
Like, am I going to become a traffic officer? Have you ever considered
Yes, it's happened
many times?
Yeah.
So what stopped you from actually coming out of
I
the
will
car?
answer you, my sister. And Lolo and Annie can understand it. Because sometimes, we are on your screens.
People recognize you.
So we don't want to show our
True colors.
What did she say?
True colors.
Aberrant.
Yeah. We don't want to
So
show
Annie
aberrant.
has promised us that she was going to grow into an aberrant.
Yeah, so we don't usually want to show that side, but it is so frustrating, Tolu, that sometimes you want to really just come down and say, you know what, can you just wait, give us 30 seconds, you come this way, and because all you need is just that 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That 30 seconds can make a difference. If we can all keep our egos aside and this being, I know that Lagos has a way of making people walk in fast forward mode. Fast forward mode. But if we could just take 30 seconds, even 45 seconds, and just wait for the other person to pass, we will not have traffic jams.
Being
there for hours, all of us
in
being there for
Nigeria,
hours.
we seem to have forgotten the way of order. You will see people running lights, buses, and people will be comfortable to sit and accept
And just watch it happen.
Sometimes I won't lie to you. When I look at us Nigerians, I want to believe that we are who we are. So sometimes you're asking for change when you yourself, there is nothing about you that you can say is forward. So if you are handing down the bulk on your side, she's handing down the bulk on this side.
Yeah.
So the center cannot hold. We're all wishing for that utopian society where you know you are not a part of.
Yeah. And you know, when we traveled, my sister was driving and she came to a four-way stop. Typical Nigerian. My husband was like, why are you stopping?
Just go.
Just go now. And she's like, if she goes, because in that society, the expectation is that everybody knows what is right and what to do. And I was driving this morning and I came back to doing my Fast and Furious. I said, Lagos is back. I was going, I'm like, wait. You promised yourself you would take things easy. Let people go everywhere. We all are rushing constantly.
But do you know when I went to Ghana? They said that Nigerians are too fast. They believe that we're too aggressive.
We rush
and they are
everything.
very laid-back people, though I do not like. We criticize them throughout. But they said, whatever, hey, Charlie, even if you ran, you would get it. If you don't run, you will still get it. So why run and hurt yourself when I can take it easy and still get it?
I think it's because we're competing against 200 and something million.
Exactly. How many are they?
Yes, and a country that seems, you know, all the odds are stacked against you, it seems, you know. I don't know. I feel like there's something called, what's it called? Civic duty, civic responsibility.
Civic responsibility.
And every citizen of every country, you have a measure of civic responsibility.
Yes.
It is your job to contribute, if not ensure, that the well-being of your community, of your society, yes, you play a part in it. You play a part in it. It's not just the government. Because imagine if you have people in small pockets doing the right thing in every part of the country, then somehow the right thing is being done in every part.
But do you
of the country.
remember
So
that we used to do it as a course?
When
we were in
civic,
secondary
yes,
school?
civic.
Civic
Do it.
So
we
let
didn't
me
do it,
studies
so
or something.
we did not.
No,
So
I
let me
did it
tell
as a
you.
child.
So let me tell you where this my question came from. And Annie, I'm so happy you said civic responsibility, because one Lagosian actually took matters into his own hands, taking on his civic responsibility when he encountered a traffic jam in Ajah, Lagos. Now, in a video,
hood?
Yeah, your hood. Now, in a video making the way online, the man can be seen ensuring everyone follows the rules, including a government vehicle that thought it was above the law. Let's watch this clip.
I love it.
Anxious.
Go back.
No, now. That was great.
People will not look for this man now and contribute money for him. This is the kind of person we should contribute money for.
I wanted to watch some more to say where exactly it was going to go. Because if you're watching the video, you actually are thinking, oh, are they really going to let him go? Really? Because the car was moving toward the guy.
Yeah.
And I was wondering as I was watching the video, where were other people to come out and lend a voice behind?
Nigeria.
He seemed like he was standing alone.
It's very sexy with that yellow. With that,
You see,
so, go ahead.
we are unruly, naturally. And do you know another bad thing is that when you see somebody doing the right thing, we still criticize.
Instead of adding our voices, because that's what happened with
adding our voices to amplify the good. We talk them down like, hey, what's wrong with him? Are you the only Nigerian? Are you the one to enforce law and order?
It's because we still get whatever little benefits we think we can get from not having systems that work, not having structures. So listen, if I stop someone from shunting the line today, tomorrow when I intend to shunt the line, someone is going to stop me. So it's selfish. It's a selfish way of being. That's why we're so lawless.
And I think one thing I applaud him for, especially, is we didn't see who the vehicle belongs to. And I'll say that as a caveat, because a lot of people can have pilots, can have sirens. And claim to be security agencies, but standing for that and standing in front of them is something. And it's a bad thing when you're driving on the roads in Lagos and around Nigeria, and it's the officials, it's government officials, and security people who are the ones who are breaking the rules. So you make it that much more difficult for an ordinary citizen to say, I must follow the rule. Because when you're at a certain level, you are an example. So please follow the rules.
Follow the rules.
We will follow the rules too. Follow the leader.
Yes,
is that not the song?
Exactly. Follow the leader, because we all know who the leader is.
Oh, whoa! Shots fired at the leader.
No.
These glasses is significant.
No,
Haven't you all noticed?
No, you are following the iron breaker.
Did you notice my glasses?
You don't say I'm
That it
looking at
shares
her.
a lot of similarities.
With the leader?
I am your leader.
What?
Catherine,
by
please take us
proxy.
on a break.
Guys, okay, so whatever Lola is channeling, I know it has to do with the iron breaker. For now, we'll take our own iron breaker timeout, but when we return, the conversation will turn to one of the latest controversies in Nigeria's education sector. That's the policy banning students less than 18 years old from sitting for the West African Senior School Certificate Examination and the National Examination Council. That conversation will happen right after this break.
Welcome back to the show. We are streaming live on all our social media platforms. We are at New Central TV. And don't forget to use the hashtag Jasiri to be a part of the conversation so that we are very sure and confident that you're watching.
Today, we are looking into a topic that's been stirring up quite a bit of conversation across the country. The federal government has announced a new policy banning students under the age of 18 from sitting for the key national examinations like WAEC and JAMB. This decision has sparked a lot of debate with strong opinions from both sides of the aisle. Many parents and educators are concerned about what this means for young, gifted students who typically progress through the education at a faster pace. On the other hand, some argue that this policy could have benefits in terms of developmental readiness and ensuring that students are mature enough to handle the pressures of these high-stakes exams. Today, we're going to unpack this really, really crucial conversation from multiple angles.
All right, so to help us navigate these questions, we have two guests. One is in the studio, with us, and the other will be joining us via Zoom. We have two distinguished guests. First is Dr. Joy Isa, a seasoned educator with a wealth of experience in both local and international education. And joining her is Mr. Alabi, because we just had a conversation, the development editor at Premium Times and the chairman of the Education Writers Association of Nigeria. Lady and gentlemen, please welcome to Jasiri.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I didn't want to murder, because I know you were giving corrections on how to. I didn't get it, so I just said
It's a straightforward name. It's Mojeed Alabi.
Mojeed
Alabi.
Alabi, simple. Anyway, this comes off the back of the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, bowing to pressure and reverting to 16 years as the minimum age for admission into tertiary institutions from the 18 years he has announced. This was following protests from stakeholders. Dr. Isa, let's start from you. This age conversation around qualifying exams and tertiary admission seems, like it never ends, because from time to time we're always coming back to it. Do you think this is another way to ensure Nigerian students don't get into tertiary institutions before they're 18? Dr. Isa, the question is for you.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, everyone, and great to be on the show. It's a controversial question just because we have not enforced a rule or a law that has been in place, since 1993 or so, when the 6334 system was established. It is clear that children do better when they're older. Neurologically, just looking at the mind, when I'm ready to engage with more complex content, then it's easier for my teachers to help me navigate that space. I want to just highlight something that Dr. N.S. said, the NUT Secretary General. He said, these days people, send children to school early in daycare centers, and so you can't stop them from making progress. I have to say that we have so many underage children running amok in our universities that statement came to me as a shock. They should be the ones saying, can we slow down the pace of progress? Compare with developed countries. You have people going to school, to universities. You don't get into university before age 18 in most other countries. And if you do, there's a clear assessment guide. You're able to track the so-called giftedness that is showing that, okay, you have been making accelerated progress, and yes, you are ready. But you are even put in certain controlled environments, because the university is a world for adults. And so these young people being thrust into that system is a challenge. So it's not a new law. It's just that the Honorable Minister is trying to enforce a policy that has been in existence, but has not been previously enforced. So obviously, I'm on the side of go later. Not earlier.
All right, we'll take it from there. So, Mojeed, as Dr. Isa has said, this is not a new policy. The minister himself has said that. And let me quote him. He says, contrary to what people have said, we are just simply reminding people of what is existing. In any case, NECO and WAEC henceforth will not be allowing underage children to write their examinations. In other words, if somebody has not spent the requisite number of years in that particular level of study, WAEC and NECO will not allow them to write the examinations. So, of course, this policy has been in existence for years, but unfortunately, we've been flouting it. Dr. Isa has said our universities are running amok with underage children. Why have we been so successful as Nigerians in unfortunately flouting this policy, this law? And in terms of doing that, what have been the repercussions?
Thank you so much. We thank you so much for bringing this up. This is quite important, and it is important because not just because the minister has said it, but because there are a lot of conditions attached to it. People, it is new to the people. It's sounding new, not because it is new, but because people are used to what had been home for quite some time. If you look at what we have within our system, Nigeria does not have a sound education system. That is very clear. And it is new because the minister has failed to also identify the remote causes. What led to this? Why did people decide to be sending their children early to school? It is because we have some conditions that those conditions do not guarantee you that you are going to graduate at the appropriate time. I spent 7 years in the university for a 4-year course. Yes, I attended Obafemi Awolowo University.
Right.
And I'm so proud of doing that.
Yeah.
I became so mature while I was in school, really. But the question that we should ask is this. Somebody is not sure of when to graduate, and that person is trying to defeat that system because the person cannot afford private university system, cannot afford private school system. Now, you also have to consider the fact that when you even graduate, even after you have been delayed because of crisis on campuses, a union going on strike or whatever, you also still have to cope with conditions attached to job recruitment.
Yeah.
People are telling you that if you are above 24, don't apply. And I was supposed to graduate at the age of 22. When did I graduate? I left school close to 25. So was it my fault? We were on break for 11 months at a stretch.
Yeah.
Anybody who attended OAU will tell you that between 2000 and 2001, we had to merge sessions together.
Wow.
And you had to combine those who were supposed to come in at a particular time. Unilag last admission, they combined admission processes. Yeah. Where 2 sessions were combined. Is it the fault of the parents?
Or the students.
Or the students. So what we are saying in essence is this. The remote causes will have to be tackled. The minister is just, I'm sorry to use this language, is just trying to be major in minor. And it's been minor in major. There are so much fundamental issues affecting our system that he hasn't been able to talk about. Don't be surprised. Very soon there's going to be strike on our campuses. So those are part of the issues that should be tackled. I'm telling you that today within the education sector, we have institutions, we have countries that run some of the best system of education in the world. I have people who are enrolled in Finland, for God's sake. In Finland, you don't do any competitive exam until you are age 16. And that's what I used to tell them. Even Professor, there was a time we had issues about this corruption in the system, and Professor Leide came to a particular program here in Lagos and he was saying, no, they were going to introduce armband, they were going to ban anybody coming with glasses, and I told them at that forum, I said, if you continue to develop things to stop people from cheating, they will continue to develop ways to ensure that they are able to cheat. Why? Because we run terrible system. Our reward system is bad. Our recruitment system is bad. You are discouraging people from being corrupt. But the system itself has made them to be corrupt.
Yes.
So those are the fundamental issues that should be changed. When you look at it, it is not the responsibility of any minister to talk about admission into institutions. It is the responsibility of the Senate of every tertiary institution. They are the ones to determine what are the conditions. It is because when you look, JAMB is an unnecessary body. It is necessary in Nigeria because there are conditions that make it to be necessary. When you look at it over there, when you want to apply to institutions abroad, do you go through any regulatory body like that?
No.
It is the institution that will conduct exams for you. But because it is conducting ranking exam, the exam it's conducting is not a certified exam. It is ranking exams to be able to restrict people and ensure that they are able to say, okay, these are the people who qualify. Even despite that, how many of the people that sit the exam every year are able to pass?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
wow,
that
that's
was a lot. I mean, speaking of the minister has gone ahead to give further breakdown of the number of years pupils were expected to spend between childcare and senior secondary school. According to him, early care is expected to last for the first 5 years. Pupils are expected to begin primary 1 at the age of 6, spend 6 years in primary school, and then move to the junior secondary school at the age of 12. Spend 3 years there before moving to the senior secondary school at the age of 15. Then spend another 3 years, and by the time you're done with that, you'll be leaving for university at the age of 18. Dr. Isa, what are the potential psychological effects of students entering university before the age of 18, honestly? Because some people are way more intellectually advanced than their age, and we can't deny that. So what are the psychological effects, please?
Again, I want to reiterate the fact that our assessment criteria for entry is where we need to is what we need to critically appraise. So saying that children shouldn't be allowed into year one before the age of 6 is justifiable. However, there is no clearly defined curriculum for early years in Nigeria. So what are the children supposed to be doing in these so-called preschools? A lot of our daycare centers are now functioning as schools. Meanwhile, the practitioners in those spaces are not qualified teachers. Yeah. They don't know anything about curriculum, progression, and all of that. So all of a sudden, because, you know, my child has to go to year one, in the daycare center, it's called preschool, nursery 1, nursery 2, and Joy is expected to write numbers 1 to 100 by age 3 or 4. Meanwhile, she has no conceptual understanding of place value. Ask her what number comes, what is 2 less than 27? She'll probably be wondering, you want me to divide 27? You want me to subtract? What is that? She has to start singing the song from the beginning to make progress. So look at where that challenge is and cascade it up. Where our children are not given the self-management skills, the thinking skills, the adaptive thinking skills, critical thinking skills, you know, communication skills they require to engage more complex phenomena in older years, they will have a problem. That is why our schools are focusing on la crème, la pour, as we say. Just memorize the information and pour it out in an exam. Yeah. You don't understand it. Once it's left your short-term memory, it's gone. It's gone. Yeah. So what kind of a populace are we raising? Are we really raising an informed or educated citizenry? I don't think so. I think that I will agree with my colleague there who says JAMB as an entry criteria is a simple ranking exam, and honestly, it doesn't do much for testing understanding. It further segregates this divide of, oh, I went to a university, oh, I went to a polytechnic. Meanwhile, the polytechnics are supposed to be well established, so people who are not as academic, who are not into white collar job, into that white collar job line, can do other things, can be entrepreneurs, can create the jobs we all need. We don't have enough jobs for these children that we're graduating. I also spent 5 years doing a 4-year course in university because of strike. I went to daycare at 18 months, by the way, because my mom was a student and needed to put me in daycare. But it wasn't school then. It was a daycare where, you know, we were being taught the soft skills. So all stakeholders should be involved in making these kinds of, in enforcing these kinds of decisions. Everybody needs to be called to the table. The Honorable Minister really needs to work with people. And by the way, it's all well and good to say, oh, don't let Joy in at 16, but she's gone through school. What is she supposed to do now that she's out of school? What are we doing with her? She's 14 and she's 14 and she's done with NECO. How is a 14-year-old supposed to be thrust into an adult environment and she's supposed to be able to deal with the pressure of a 25-year-old saying, hey, let's hang out? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Of course, she can't cope in that environment. So we're thrusting young people into adult environments and wondering why they're not able to cope. We have to slow these things down. We should, to support the children.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Isa. Right, guys, this is Jasiri. We're having conversation based on education. We have Dr. Joy Isa in the studio with us, and of course, Mojeed is also here. But we'll take a short break now. This is Jasiri. When we return, conversations will continue. All right, welcome back to Jasiri. We're having conversations during the break, and we have conversations on screen and off screen. This is Jasiri, and today we're assessing Nigeria's education system. We have Mojeed in the studio with us, and of course, Dr. Isa is also joining us by Zoom. All right, so during the break, before we also went on the break, Dr. Isa raised very sterling points that resonated with us here in the studio. My next question takes me to age-based restrictions and the impact they have on students. Mojeed, I'll come to you with that, because I'm speaking from experience, and I can understand where Dr. Isa is coming from, because I was in a fast-forward mode. I entered university at 15.
What is chasing you
15? My mother was on I don't know where she was.
She was at education.
She was, I entered university at 15, I left uni at 19. Now, In my first year in university, I struggled because I was the youngest in class.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand the gravity of what I was studying. And I had to retake my core course. In year 2, I had to take a year 1 course. And I realized at that point that I had to do work on myself. If I need to put my head down and study this thing and get it together. But that's me. There's some children who would probably be overwhelmed by all of that and say, oh, I can't do this and just wait. Now, I have a son who's in university. He entered uni at 18. And he told me I wanted to enter uni at 18. Of course, he did some pre-courses before uni, but he told me he was ready to go to uni at 18. As a Nigerian mother, I'm calculating the years in advance, and I'm saying, my brother. But he convinced me that at 18, he won't struggle so much in uni, he will understand. And now, while I'm looking at the age, I say, Lolo can understand this. I say, oh, but I'm understanding it now because he's had a smooth sailing, you understand? So, Mojeed, back to my question. Now, what have you seen in your own experience, the unintended consequences of age-based restrictions on performance or motivation of students in university?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think as far back as around 2011, 2012, we ran some campaigns. Then I was with National Mirror newspaper. And what was the campaign? We ran 2 campaigns. One was the cancellation of primary 6, that you realize that a lot of schools were actually not getting to primary 6. So from basic 4 and basic 5, they sit exams and move to secondary school, even at age 9, 10. And we felt that that was not good enough for us as a system. The second campaign that we ran was on the removal of history from school curriculum. And I made it a particular issue that at every point when I had opportunity of meeting critical stakeholders, out of probably Senate, Chairman Senate Committee on Education, or whoever, we bring this matter to them to let them know the danger in it. When you look at it, it is very wrong to have allowed your child to move to a particular stage. If you look at even the system, the introduction by Babs Pafonwa of 6334, before we also introduced this pre-basic education system, where you spend 6 years, they are calculated there. They are calculated not just because they just felt they had to pick a particular period. No, it's because they look at the maturity. You get to a particular stage before. I was on the campus when I was during my undergraduate days, and I saw some young children who were at Awo Hall. You know, it takes a lot. In Ife, on university campuses, you can walk, especially in OAU. For those who attended, you can walk from morning to the following morning without any hindrance. Nobody touches you, you move around. So these ladies who were just coming, they were just young children, and they just entered the campus. And I was going somewhere, I realized that I left them around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And when I was coming back around 10 p.m., I saw them on the same spot. And I had to eavesdrop. And what did I hear? They were saying, no, so nobody is coming to wake us up in the dormitory again. Nobody is going to do this. So they were so carried away by the freedom that they had. And they were on that spot for more than 3-4 hours. Wow. So it showed that they had not had access to that kind of freedom. They were just coming from boarding school and they moved into the university and they could be carried away. Yes, it is very understandable. Those things are there. When you allow children, I welcome it. I had examples of 2 kids. They are children of my friends. They sat common entrance in Abuja about 3 years ago. Unfortunately, one at about 3 to 4 years ago. Unfortunately, one had to move to Finland currently. In fact, I was the one who took them to the airport about 2 weeks ago when they were returning. When they got to Finland, the one in Nigeria is currently going to SS1 when they resume. It's in Abuja. The one who moved to Finland is still in basic class. Yes, because they calculate that it is age that determines the class that you belong to there. So if you are 9 years old, they give you iPad. It is not, the time they spend in school in Finland is just probably 2, 3, 4 hours. They are done. They give you kits. They play more. They allow them that freedom to explore. So what they do is not that they just force. You see in Nigeria, you have a child of 7, 8, 10 years, they have
to sit for hours.
about 12 subjects.
Yes.
So the subjects that are not even necessary.
Relevant.
So what
Just
you
makes
do is
sense.
this. Over there, what do? They don't write any competitive exam until age 16. Wow. So the girl, one of them was saying, because there are two, one was saying, oh, Dad, I've been in primary school, I've repeated one class for about 4 times now, for about 3 times now, because it's still in basic school. But the one in Nigeria is already going to SS1 now. But when you look at their maturity, when you look at what they know, what they can do, you will see that they are just pushing the one that is in secondary school in Nigeria. They are just pushing. It is just this routine thing that you just carry your bag every morning. But over there, you will tell you, when they resume, they spend 2 hours, they are back. They have skating boards, they have everything. The time they spend to learn is lesser than the time they spend, and they hit in school. But the problem is that an average Nigerian, over there, the school is free. Their parents are not paying. The mother, because he was studying their language, was also being paid. Because the father is also a PhD candidate in one of the schools. So they are paid. But you look at it here, a parent will be considering, do I have the resources to still enroll this one next year? That is fundamental. How many public schools are available? You have to ask the minister, who are the owners of these private schools that are flouting these rules? Who are the owners? Do I have the capacity to own a private school? They are the same set of people who are making the rule in the public institutions, but they go into the private institution, they cancel the thing, they flout it themselves. So we have to first of all look at it. I keep saying it. The exams that you conduct, are they even necessary? Are they important? Yes, if they are important, everybody, every time you say you want to promote, you want to do exams, these are fundamental challenges that you need to come and face. That tailor, that fashion designer that was asked to leave your school because she could not cope, why is he the one giving you the best of dress? Is he not doing measurements? So those are things that you should look at, that there are fundamental challenges. And I'm going to give the minister one particular thing that he needs to do. NUC is a body under his watch. I've written him personally. We have written, Premium Times has written him too. The NUC is a body that should regulate university system. NUC today is not also regulated. NUC as a body has 12 departments, minimum of 12 departments. All the department is run by acting director. One of the directors has spent 5 years in acting capacity.
Yes.
There is no executive secretary for NUC. You see in NUC that you have an executive secretary who is acting as executive secretary. Is the one going for resource verification in institutions. You know the reason. So who is going to receive the report?
Wow.
You move from one US, from one private university. They are about to register to accredit about 20 other new private universities. If they should go ahead, they don't have any facts, evidence that these schools are going to run very smoothly.
Wow. I'm so sorry. I'm that because of that private. Remember we talked about one private university outside Ibadan that had graduating law students
and they were not accredited.
That law school refused because they were not accredited.
Wow.
And we know that Mojeed is coming back.
Honestly, there's a lot of unpacking in some of this things.
He's coming back.
But we need to, push a little more further on this particular discussion. Dr. Isa, I know that you think, how do you think this ban will affect, the academic trajectory of gifted students? We can't deny that there are students that are really gifted when it comes to academics and, some other unique things. And whether we like it or not, they progress very quickly. Could this policy we're talking about be seen as holding them back? Because, in Nigeria, we're like a one-way street. There are no detours. And that can be really limited. So are there exceptions to this policy? Because by research, I know that there are schools abroad that are very specific to things. If your children excel in mathematics, if your children excel in science, if they excel in sports, there are schools that are created specially to be able to amplify some of these their natural talents, abilities than academics. So how do you want to help us, unpack these few things?
I will reference the US, where you are allowed to make accelerated progress. So the US has the AP program, where again, with clear assessment criteria, clear that everybody is aware of, children are tested, and then they're allowed to make progress. The thing is, they are allowed to make progress, but they stay with their age group. So again, age makes a big difference. So you can be in the 6th grade and be taking 9th grade maths or 10th grade English. Where we see some of these jumps, a lot of those children are homeschooled. So the parents have kept them in a secluded or a safe and learning space, and they're, making progress at a faster rate. I want to go back a little bit to one of the things my colleague said. What is the curriculum that is outlined for children between ages 0 to 5? What is the curriculum age 6 to 12? What's the curriculum beyond that in secondary school? The curriculum leaders and experts all over the world have sat down and checked progression of concepts. When a child skips year 5 and 6, for example, because, I'm getting 100% in every task, I'm really super smart, and jumps all the way to year 7, JS1, the child has missed 2 years of academic instruction, 2 years of scaffolding, 2 years of learning that are supposed to build into the learning year 7. So all of a sudden, the child is no longer getting 100%. The child's confidence level drops. The child is under pressure to perform with older people at a higher level. But where there are clear assessment criteria, you don't just skip from year 4 to year 7. You're supposed to get tested at the year 5 level and at the year 6 level against all the criteria. Then we can determine whether you are ready to move forward. Unfortunately, yes, societal pressure is there. So private school owners want, let's call it, they want bums on seats, right? So, Mrs. Isa's upset. She wants her children to go to the fancy school down the road, and she has the money, and the school is speaking English about age. And she's like, all right, I'll take my money somewhere else. Because the school is a private school, no government funding, okay, let's just see how Joy performs. And that, again, perpetuates this, I call it just evil, where you put children under pressure to perform when they are not developmentally ready. Promotional exams is one of the things he cited, or I want to reference. Who sets these exams? Who is marking these exams? They're not standardized. So it depends on how I feel. I'm a teacher, I taught the concepts, I give them this random OBJ. There's no narrative, there's no deep thinking, there's no high order thinking. And all the questions are set on level 1 and 2 of Bloom's, low level thinking. Of course, the children will pass because I can memorize concepts. So the smart children are really those who are able to memorize information very quickly and regurgitate in exams. Those who need extra time to form deeper levels of conceptual understanding are seen as slow. Meanwhile, who's going to remember the information? He cited a good example. Who's going to translate the strategies for measurement in mathematics into designing the lovely African wear that we all appreciate? The person who took the time to learn. Last thing I want to say, where are we rushing the children to? Nobody's employing a 19-year-old in any mega company. Nobody. Why is a 19-year-old then allowed to graduate and be thrust into a workforce that he or she cannot find space in? Can we let adults, can we let people who are equipped can we allow them enjoy their childhood and let them grow up so that they are a responsible group of young people who can make informed decisions? You know that neurologically, the neuroscientists tell us that while the back of our brains that, the lower middle that are responsible for emotions are kind of fully developed by age 4, they're almost at adult capacity. But the part, like the brakes ready for your common sense are not fully developed until age 25. So where are we rushing to? Why are we not listening to the experts? Why are we listening to parents? Why are we listening to people in daycare centers who do not have the requisite qualification based on the fact that their universities are not even well accredited to guide our children? Can we not listen to the experts? Can we not borrow from the developed world? not taking their curriculum hook, line, and sinker, but seeing the strategies and saying, look here, we want our children to be inventors. We want our children to be innovative and creative. Can we allow them begin to innovate and create from the early years so that by the time they get older, you know, it's a no-brainer?
Yeah. Wow. What you just spoke about, Ms. Isa, is policy. We're talking about the educational policies, and the federal government or the Federal Ministry of Education has over the years released really beneficial policies. I mean, I think of the UBE Act, the Universal Basic Education Act, that was instated in 2004. You've got things like the national, I think, policy for, what's it called? Science and technology education, where we were trying to focus on STEM, improving our focus on STEM courses. And so there have been really good policies, but it feels like sometimes there's a discrepancy between the policy and the implementation and how these actually affect the citizens. So I'd like to ask, could this policy, because this is positive based on everything that we've been talking about, this has its benefits, but could there be some people that are, how can I say this, affected, people from certain socioeconomic backgrounds, for instance, who are affected if they have to wait for a longer time to go to school? Maybe they have fewer resources. How can we ensure that there's fair access to education for every single student under a policy like this?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Can I just quick, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were asking me.
Yeah, I think what is important is this. There is every single policy. It's not just about policy. We have a lot of policies, in fact, that are already dusty on our shelves. And the minister knows. And I'm even happy that it is the minister that is coming up with this so much interest in this policy, because the minister himself, at a time, the minister was a former vice chancellor of Bayes University. If you check the Bayes University, as a former director general of Nigerian Law School, he was also, he's a senior advocate of Nigeria. But when he left as a minister, I'm sorry to say it, there's, up to now, Bayes University will not be able to admit law students because they flouted those rules of the conditions set to admit, because they even admitted beyond their carrying capacity. And that was why the Council of Legal Education came and said, no, you cannot. So he left, and these are things, so people would like to look at it. Are we just into this to be popular? Do we just want to make something to just show that the president I'm working? I am saying that there are usually consequences for every decision. But every good policy will always have something special to take care of certain development. There are usually children who are just naturally gifted. In Nigeria, it used to be, they have a center in Abuja where they take those gifted children to, who are just exceptionally good. Probably at the age of 12, you can do certain things. They are permitted, but they will not allow them to go to these other institutions that are for everybody. So, but the question is this, where we have more problem is that we run a mixed system where the bulk of, the beauty of running a school is to have schools near parents' homes. You understand? But go and check the public schools that you have, what is the availability? What's the state of those public schools? Will you be happy when you go to some of these public schools to enroll your children? But they have the best sort of teachers. So it is about regulation. The regulatory, the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, which is headed by Professor Josiah Ajiboye. We have always had this conversation, and he has tried, in fairness to him, to ensure that those who are going to be teachers in Nigeria must have quality. They organize exams, they do a lot of things, but when you look at the amount of the challenge that we have, the parents themselves will be willing to even enroll their children where they think is very close to them. The schools are not available. Even those that are available, when you go there, are there tools for them to see them? So until we are able to address all these fundamental issues, why we have these challenges, because the system is largely flouted by who? By those who run private system. But who are the owners of the private system? So they are the children of these ministers. They are the relatives. They are the politicians in the system. So that is why they lack the political will to run some of these things. It had been there long ago. Why are schools not running primary 6? Go and check. Most private schools today, they don't run primary 6. And we are saying we should run 6-3-3-4 system of education. When you look at it, it is to allow children to mature. That maturity had been, perhaps happened while we introduced it. There have been so many other systems before it came. But since it came, everybody was ready to welcome it because it actually allowed a lot of things. But the unfortunate thing is that, one, people send their children to private schools. Private schools are so costly these days. A lot of people want to cut their cost. You look at opportunity, they say, oh, your child has performed so beautifully well. And because of that, they have to get double promotion. Who is giving double promotion? What gave you the opportunity to give me double promotion? So they send your child and they say, no, he can perform, he can do well. Wow. I told my wife at it, I said, my child must repeat a particular class. Wow. And there was now this pressure. No. I said, no. It doesn't change anything. It's a meeting, so. They have done this. So that pressure that we put on ourselves, we must be able to let people realize that the consequences will be there. I can tell you what happens in one of these institutions here. If you go to a particular hostel at the University of Lagos, if you know what these young children are going through, what they are doing. I was still discussing with the Dean of Student Affairs, and everybody is baffled. When they are saying they want to introduce drug test for schools. They have been doing it in University of Lagos for about 4 or 5 years. No, more than 8 years. What the tests have been showing, terrible. Wow. These are young children. If you see them when they dress, some of them, they will cover their hair when they are walking on the campus. Go to their hostel. They behave so many dirty. And these authorities, every system that you will see the parents who want to come
and you're tying this to children getting into school before they're mature.
Before the age, but most of the things, these challenges are actually parental.
Okay. Dr. Isa was going to...
Yes, and because of our time, Dr. Isa, I'll ask you to do this in about 30 seconds. You see, this is a really extensive conversation, but I want you to make the point.
Two of it, honestly.
Please go ahead, Dr. Isa.
Okay. TRCN is supposed to certify teachers.
Yes.
How many of the teachers can access the exams? I did my TRCN exam last year, my re-accreditation, and it's valid for 3 years. So a teacher that doesn't really understand the content will cheat in the TRCN exam. I remember there was a challenge at our center in Lagos, and this was almost canceled. Some people were spreading, some people doing the TRCN at the NCE level were spreading answers, and I couldn't believe it. How can teachers be cheating in an exam to be accredited to be teachers? What are they going to do with the children? It's unbelievable. So children, we all need to step back. The minister, like he said, the minister is doing well, but my challenge is implementation. There's a rule. Who is going to enforce the rule? Where there's no enforcement, it's not going to work. Banks have their regulations, and banks are required to consolidate or shut down. Can we have something like that in education, where we either we consolidate or we shut down?
Okay,
that's
Dr. Isa, we'll do part 2, please. We'll do a part 2 because there's still so many questions. We've gotten comments coming in from social media. People are asking about what happens to secondary schools that don't have a primary 6, what's likely to happen in the new academic year, the financial implications as well, even in terms of readjusting curriculum and progression policies. All of those things are conversations we'll need to pick up. But unfortunately, our time with Dr. Isa and Mojeed Alabi is spent for today. We will bring them back on a number of issues that have been raised and continue to shine the spotlight on Nigeria's education system. Dr. Isa, thank you so much for joining us. Mojeed Alabi, thank you for being in the studio with us. This is as much as we can take on today's Jasiri. We're back tomorrow. I can promise you a really, really great show because we have one of the noisiest people on social media joining us tomorrow, but for a good thing.
Oh, Annie, are you here tomorrow? Say yes.
I